Where to start in trying to understand the magnitude of what's just happened in Syria?
Well, the Assad family controlled Syria with an iron fist for 53 years.
Had jailed and killed tens of thousands, anyone who threatened his rule.
It's December 8th, 2024. Dawn is breaking over Damascus, and something unprecedented is happening. For 53 years, the Assad family has ruled Syria with an iron fist. Bashar al-Assad, the man who inherited power from his father in the year 2000, is about to discover that even the most entrenched dictatorships can collapse in mere hours. Just days earlier, everything seemed stable. Assad controlled 60 to 70% of Syrian territory. Syria had even been readmitted to the Arab League in 2023 after a 12-year suspension. To outside observers, this regime appeared consolidated, but beneath this facade of stability, the foundations were rotting. The cracks had been showing for years. The Syrian economy had shrunk by 54% from 2010 to 2021. Over 90% of the population was living below the poverty line. The regime had even resorted to producing and selling captagon drugs, effectively becoming a narco-state in the Middle East. But Assad, like so many dictators before him, believed his own propaganda of strength. Then came November 27th, 2024. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham launched what they called the Deterrence of Aggression Offensive. Within the first 10 hours, they captured 20 towns. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was just another skirmish in a war that had supposedly been won. But something was different this time. The Syrian army, depleted by years of civil war, began to simply melt away. Assad's forces, who had relied so heavily on Russian air support and Iranian militias, found themselves abandoned. Russia was too busy with Ukraine to spare resources for a failing client. Iran, under pressure from Israeli attacks on its proxies, was pulling back its militias. By November 30th, the unthinkable happened. Aleppo fell. Not after months of siege, not after devastating battles, but almost without resistance. Revolutionary forces seized the citadel, the government headquarters, most of the city. The army that was supposed to be loyal to Assad was surrendering or simply walking away. The dominoes began falling faster than anyone could have imagined. Hama fell on December 5th as pro-government forces withdrew to, quote, preserve civilian lives. But this wasn't mercy, this was collapse. By December 7th, Homs was in rebel hands. This was the death blow. Homs cut Assad's forces off from the Alawite coastal region, from his support base, from the Russian military installations that had kept him in power. Assad was trapped. In the south, local forces captured Daraa and Suwaida, gaining control of 90% of Daraa province. The US-backed Syrian Free Army took Palmyra. Every direction he looked, his regime was disintegrating. On December 7th, revolutionary forces entered the Damascus countryside, advancing to within 20 kilometers of the capital. Pro-Assad forces began withdrawing from the suburbs, Jaramana, Katana, Daraya. The outer defenses of Damascus were crumbling. And then, in the early hours of December 8th, Bashar al-Assad did what dictators do when the game is finally up. He ran. He fled Damascus International Airport aboard a private aircraft, made a stop at the Russian Khmeimim airbase, then continued to Moscow where Vladimir Putin granted him political asylum. The man who had ruled Syria for 24 years, whose family had controlled the country for over half a century, was gone. That morning, as rebel troops first entered Damascus, the Syrian Arab Army Command issued a stunning announcement to its soldiers and officers. They were no longer in service. The Assad government had ceased to exist. Opposition forces encountered minimal resistance as they seized key facilities across the capital: the state media building, Damascus International Airport, strategic neighborhoods. Syrian state television, which had been the voice of the regime for decades, began broadcasting a new message: victory of the Great Syrian Revolution and the fall of the criminal Assad regime. In one of the most symbolic acts, HTS announced the release of prisoners from Sednaya prison, one of Syria's most notorious detention facilities. The collapse was so swift that it shocked even the Syrian people and the opposition fighters themselves. They hadn't expected such rapid disintegration. Public celebrations erupted in cities like Homs and Damascus, with residents chanting anti-Assad slogans, tearing down government symbols, celebrating the end of the Assad family's 53-year rule. This was the complete psychological collapse of a regime that had been hollowed out from within. Assad's personalist rule meant that his flight immediately triggered a systemic breakdown. There was no institution, no ideology, no loyalty left to hold the system together once the man at the top was gone. Within months, an interim government was declared, led by Ahmed al-Shara, the former leader of HTS, who became interim president in January 2025. Approximately 450,000 refugees began returning across international borders, and 1.2 million internally displaced persons started their journey back home. The fall of Assad represents a seismic shift in Middle Eastern geopolitics. It's a major defeat for Iran's axis of resistance, disrupting vital supply routes to Hezbollah. It's a victory for Turkey, which had consistently backed the opposition. For Israel, it's an opportunity to further weaken Iranian influence in the region. It's a reminder that even the most entrenched dictatorships, propped up by foreign powers and sustained by fear, can collapse in a matter of days when their foundations finally give way. Assad's regime discovered that power built on repression rather than consent is ultimately brittle. When the moment of truth comes, when the army won't fight and the people won't obey, even 53 years of dynastic rule can crumble in just a few hours. The Assad dynasty is over. After more than half a century, Syria has entered a new and uncertain chapter. Thanks for watching the video all the way through. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also check out this video about Operation Rubicon by clicking here. Alright, see you in the next video.